Last pedal I'm going to show here is the MusicPCB Tap Tempo Tremolo. It's a printed circuit board and it comes with the tap tempo control chip, which also has controls for the note divisions. You can go from a half note, quarter note triplets, eighth note triplets, and 16th notes. So the 16th note allows you to, get settings that you can't possibly tap in, and also are faster than what you could normally get from the tempo control. It also controls the waveform. I've got it set to a sine wave right now, but it also does triangle wave. If I turn it back here, square wave, and then a couple different ramp waves. This setting is a sort of humps setting. It scoops downward, and the next setting scoops upward. So it gets gradually louder instead. And the last setting is a random setting, which I don't find particularly useful, but it is funny. Otherwise, depth, volume, width, which is it's sort of like the duty cycle in some tremolos, but you turn it all the way up, and it interacts with different waveforms differently, so I can't really give a general description of it. And lastly, the time, which I don't use that often because it's got a tempo. So I'm going to start off with just a quarter note setting tapped into what I just did, and I'll go from there. I'll also show off a couple synthier settings. There's some really neat chop stuff you can get with a triangle wave and the waveform. So here's the MusicPCB Tap Tempo Tremolo. Whoa. I still had a fuzz on. Okay. So here's the bypass setting, no pedals. With tremolo one. This is set to almost all the way up on the depth, and the volume is set for unity. We've all heard tremolos, so I'm not gonna roll through all the settings, but I will turn it up to 16th notes. It turns into a nice shimmer. I'm going to set it to an 8th note setting right now, and this is one of the synthier settings I was talking about. I'm rolling it back to a triangle wave and setting the width knob. I'm turning the width knob clockwise, and that's going to increase the distance between the waves. And you can hear it clicks sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time, but I did wire this so that when it's bypassed it doesn't click. If you use the stock PCB without any mods, it'll click all the time. So you have to use a separate LED for the tap tempo switch. So this was the depth all the way up, and it chops completely off. Bring the volume up a little bit sometimes. interesting thing is it'll feed a delay in this setting. So I'm going to set my delay to 1/8 notes, and set this back to 1/4 notes. If you really wanted to, you could use this as a volume boost. I don't find it as useful as some other tremolos. I've got a Moleco tremolo around that has a little bit of a volume boost, and that's useful because it sounds warm. This just sort of sounds, still sounds like your guitar, just louder. Let's get the depth all the way up. And when the depth's all the way down, unlike some tremolos, this one actually does get completely and totally flat, no volume change at all. So that's bypass. That's used as a clean boost. And really, there's not a whole lot else to show. I mean, we've all heard various types of tremolos. The way I ended up building this one, I kept failing to build a tremoless loon, and I did finally get it done, but it took me 3 tries. And ironically, the board that was a little more complicated and involved a whole lot more wiring came off without a hitch on the first try. But this one's got a lot of similar settings, except it doesn't have tap tempo tremolo, right? It doesn't have a tap tempo switch, and you have to pretty much guess on some of the waveforms. It's got a symmetry knob, but that really just changes the ramp mostly, and you can change the space in between it. That's like the width knob on the tap tempo tremolo down there.